The Galactic Council Station hung in space like a massive crystal flower. Its towers sparkled with lights from 1,000 different worlds. Inside those towers, beings from across the galaxy lived and worked together. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some were made of energy that glowed in the dark. All of them were more advanced than humanity. All of them had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Ambassador Jiwoo stood at the window of her quarters and looked out at the stars. She was 42 years old with gray starting to show in her black hair. She wore a simple blue suit that marked her as a diplomat from Earth. In her hand she held a speech she had written and rewritten 20 times. Tomorrow she would stand before the Galactic Council and speak for all of humanity. The door chimed. Captain Dae-hyun entered without waiting for permission. That was his way. He had been a soldier for 20 years and he moved like one. His uniform was crisp and clean, but his eyes were tired. He carried the weight of protecting the entire human delegation on his shoulders. "You should sleep," he said. "Tomorrow is important." "I know." Jiwoo turned from the window. "Are you ready?" "I am always ready." Dae-hyun smiled a little. "My daughter sent me a message today. She wanted to know if the aliens are scary." "What did you tell her?" "I told her they are different." "Not scary, just different." He paused. "I am not sure I believe that myself." Jiwoo understood. The aliens were polite. They spoke kindly, but there was something cold in the way they looked at humans, like scientists studying insects. Interesting, but not important. The next morning, the summit hall was full. Beings from hundreds of worlds filled the seats. The Vraxians sat in one section, their huge bodies covered in armor like shells. They were warriors, the strongest fighters in the galaxy. Next to them, the Keltar clustered together, their bodies connected by thin threads of light. They shared one mind between many bodies. In the front row, the ancient Savorians watched with eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. Jiwoo walked to the speaking platform. Her hands shook a little, but she kept her voice steady. She talked about Earth. She talked about humanity's journey to the stars. She talked about what humans could offer the galaxy. Peace, friendship, a willingness to learn. The aliens listened. Some took notes. When she finished, they clapped politely. But Jiwoo could see it in their eyes. They did not believe humans had anything important to teach them. After the speech, there was a cultural exhibition. Different species showed off their art, their music, their technology. Dr. Hana moved from display to display, her eyes wide with wonder. She was young, only 28, and everything about this place excited her. She studied alien biology, and here she could see dozens of species she had only read about in books. She stopped at the Vraxian display. A huge warrior stood next to a tank full of eggs. The eggs were the size of basketballs covered in hard shells. "How long until they hatch?" Hana asked. The warrior looked down at her. 3 days. Then they break free and hunt." "Hunt?" "But they are babies. They are hatchlings. They must be strong enough to survive alone. The weak ones die. That is our way." The warrior said this without emotion, like he was discussing the weather. Hana felt sick. She moved to the next display. The Keltar showed images of their home world. Young drones worked in massive hives identical to the adults. "Do you care for your young?" she asked a Keltar cluster. The cluster buzzed. "Care? We produce drones as needed. If a drone stops functioning, we produce another. Young or old makes no difference to the collective." Later, Hana found Captain Dae-hyun watching the crowd. She told him what she had learned. "None of them care about their children," she said quietly. "Not like we do." Dae-hyun frowned. "Maybe they just show it differently." "No, I have been studying this. Every species I talk to says the same thing. Young ones are replaceable. Adults are valuable. It is the opposite of how humans think." Before Dae-hyun could respond, alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed throughout the station. A voice spoke in a dozen languages at once. "Emergency! Coolant leak in Section 7. All personnel evacuate immediately." People ran. Some flew, some crawled. The halls filled with panic. Dae-hyun grabbed Hana and pulled her toward the emergency stairs. Jiwoo appeared from somewhere, her face pale. "What happened?" Jiwoo shouted over the noise. "I do not know, but we need to get to safety." Dae-hyun led them up and away from Section 7. An hour later, the humans gathered in their quarters. Everyone was accounted for. Everyone except one. Engineer Minho burst through the door, his face covered in blood. "My daughter," he gasped. "Bora." She was in Section 7. I told her to wait in the engineering room while I finished work. I told her not to move. The room went silent. Section 7 was sealed now. Toxic gas filled the corridors. No one could survive there for long. Jiwoo was already moving. She ran to the council chambers. The alien leaders sat in a circle discussing the situation calmly. She interrupted them. "There are children in Section 7, she said. "We need to send a rescue team." A Savorian elder looked at her with ancient eyes. "Section 7 is lost. The gas is spreading. Any rescue attempt would be suicide. But there are children in there." The Vraxian commander spoke next. 4 juveniles are trapped. 1 human, 1 Vraxian hatchling, 1 Keltar drone, and 1 young Savorian. It is unfortunate but acceptable losses. Acceptable? Jiwoo could not believe what she was hearing. "They are children." The Keltar cluster buzzed. "Juveniles have not yet contributed to society. Adults have training, experience, value. We cannot risk valuable lives for unproven young ones. This is basic logic," the Savorian elder nodded. "In all the long history of this galaxy, no species has ever prioritized young over adults. It would be irrational, wasteful. We are sorry for your loss, but the decision is final." Section 7 remains sealed. Jiwoo stared at them. These were the great civilizations of the galaxy, beings who had conquered space and time, and not one of them understood what it meant to be a parent. She turned and left the chamber. Behind her, she heard the Vraxian commander say to the others, "Humans are very emotional. They will calm down soon." But the Vraxian commander was wrong. Humans would not calm down, because in that moment, Jiwoo understood something terrible and wonderful. Humanity was alone in the galaxy. Not in terms of intelligent life. In terms of love. In terms of the deep, fierce instinct to protect children at any cost. The galaxy had millions of species. Billions of beings, and humanity was the only one that would run into fire to save a child. She found Daehyun in the human quarters. He was already putting on a hazard suit. Minho stood beside him, wounded but determined. Hana was checking medical supplies. Pilot Sojin was programming an emergency shuttle. No one had asked them to prepare. No one had given orders. They just knew what had to be done, because they were human, and humans did not abandon their children. "How many are coming?" Jiwoo asked. Daehyun looked around the room. 14 humans stood ready. "All of us," he said. The council chamber was cold and bright. Ambassador Jiwoo stood before the assembled aliens one more time. This time she did not come to give a speech about peace and cooperation. This time she came to beg for the lives of 4 children. "Please," she said, "organize a rescue team. We can save them. The gas is spreading slowly. We have time." The Savorian elder shook his head. His skin was gray with age, wrinkled like old paper. "Ambassador, we understand you are upset, but you must understand our position. We cannot risk adult lives for juveniles. This is not cruelty. This is survival. In our world," the elder continued, "we learned long ago that resources are limited. Every ship, every suit, every breath of air must be used wisely. Adults contribute to society. They have knowledge, skills, experience. Juveniles are potential, nothing more. To risk the certain for the uncertain would be foolish." Jiwoo felt her hands tighten into fists. What about love? What about family? The Vraxian commander stood. He was massive, his shell scarred from 1,000 battles. "We do not understand this word love the way you use it. We feel pride when our hatchlings are strong. We feel satisfaction when they survive. But risk our lives for them? No, that would be against nature." A Keltar cluster spoke next. Their voice came from multiple bodies at once, creating an eerie harmony. "The collective survives through efficiency. Individual drones are temporary. The whole is eternal. Your species appears to value individuals over the group. This seems very strange to us." Jiwoo looked around the chamber. Hundreds of species, thousands of years of civilization, and not one of them understood what she was saying. "Let me tell you about humans," she said quietly. "On Earth, we have a long childhood. Human babies cannot walk for a year. They cannot feed themselves for years after that. They need constant care, constant protection, and so we evolved to give it to them. We evolved to love so deeply it hurts. A human parent would die for their child without thinking. They would run into fire, face any danger, give up their own life in a heartbeat. Not because it is logical, because it is who we are." The Savorian elder listened carefully. "This is fascinating from an anthropological perspective. Your species developed extended parental care as a survival strategy, but you must see that in the broader context of galactic civilization, this is inefficient. Inefficient, Jiwoo repeated. The word tasted bitter in her mouth. Yes. Consider the mathematics. 4 juveniles trapped. A rescue would require at least 10 adults. The risk of death is approximately 70%. So you would risk 10 valuable lives with a 70% death rate to save 4 unproven juveniles. The numbers do not support the action. Jiwoo felt tears on her face. She did not try to hide them. You are right. The numbers do not support it. But we will do it anyway. The council voted. It was unanimous. Section 7 would remain sealed. The 4 trapped juveniles were officially classified as acceptable losses. The council meeting ended. The aliens returned to their normal routines, but in the human quarters, something else was happening. Captain Dae-hyun finished sealing his hazard suit. The suit was heavy, designed to protect against radiation, toxic gas, and extreme temperatures. It would keep him alive in Section 7. For a while, Engineer Minho stood next to him. Blood still dripped from a cut on his forehead, but he ignored it. His hands shook as he checked his equipment. Not from fear, from fury. My daughter is 10 years old, Minho said. She likes to draw. She wants to be an engineer like me. She is smart, brave, kind, and they say she is an acceptable loss. Dae-hyun put a hand on his shoulder. We will get her back. Dr. Hana finished packing medical supplies. She was not trained for rescue operations. She was a scientist. But she was also human, and that meant she was going. Pilot So-jin checked the emergency shuttle one more time. The shuttle was small, built for evacuation, not exploration. It would get them close to Section 7, but then they would have to go in on foot. Around the room, other humans prepared. Maintenance workers. Administrative staff. A cook, a teacher. None of them were soldiers. None of them were trained for this. But all of them were ready to try. Jiwoo entered the room. She had changed from her diplomatic suit into practical clothes. She carried a hazard suit of her own. Ambassador, you should stay here, Dae-hyun said. If something happens to us, humanity needs someone to speak for them. If I stay here while children die, I am not worth listening to. Jiwoo started putting on her suit. Word spread through the station quickly. The humans were preparing to violate the council's decision. They were going to attempt a rescue. Aliens gathered to watch. They did not try to stop the humans. They were simply curious. This behavior was so strange, so irrational that they wanted to observe it. The Vraxian commander approached Dae-hyun as the team prepared to board the shuttle. The massive warrior carried something in his clawed hands. Weapons. You may need these. The commander said, I do not understand why you do this. But I see that you will do it whether I understand or not. So take these. They may help. Dae-hyun took the weapons. Thank you. Your hatchling is in there too. We will bring him back. The commander looked confused. Why would you risk your life for my hatchling? Because he is a child. That is reason enough. A Keltar cluster approached Dr. Hana. They transmitted data directly into her suit computer. Environmental maps. Gas composition. Structural weak points. This information may increase your survival probability by 3%, the cluster said. We do not understand your mission, but we are curious to see if you succeed. Even the Savorian elder came. He handed Jiwoo a small device. This is a recording device, he said. We would like to document what happens. For historical purposes. Your behavior is unprecedented in galactic history. Jiwoo stared at him. You want to record us dying? We want to record why you choose to try. The elder's voice was soft. In 10,000 years, my species has never seen anything like this. Perhaps there is something we have forgotten. Something important. The 14 humans boarded the shuttle. Through the windows, they could see hundreds of aliens watching. Some had gathered screens to observe. Others simply stood in corridors waiting. Pilot So-jin activated the engines. Everyone ready? Nobody answered. They did not need to. They were all thinking the same thing. They were probably going to die. The math said so. The logic said so. Every advanced species in the galaxy said so. But humans did not always follow math and logic. Sometimes humans followed their hearts. The shuttle launched. It moved through the station toward Section 7. Behind them, on every screen across the station, aliens watched. News spread to other worlds. Within minutes, beings across the galaxy were tuning in to watch the humans, not because they thought the rescue would succeed, because they wanted to understand why the humans were trying. The shuttle reached the outer barrier of Section 7. So-Jin brought it as close as she could, then stopped. The rest would have to be on foot. Dae-hyun checked his team one last time. Stay together. Watch your air supply. If anyone gets in trouble, we help them. We all come back or none of us do. They opened the airlock. Yellow gas swirled in the corridor beyond. Alarms screamed warnings. The suits registered toxic levels immediately. Minho stepped forward first. My daughter's in there. I go first, Dae-hyun nodded. Then we all go. One by one, the 14 humans stepped into Section 7. The doors sealed behind them. There was no going back now. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched. They watched humans walk deliberately toward danger. They watched humans choose possible death over certain safety. And for the first time in galactic history, they began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was more than one kind of strength. The gas was thick like soup. Captain Dae-hyun could barely see 2 meters ahead. His suit lights cut through the yellow fog, but everything beyond that was shadows and smoke. Behind him, 13 other humans followed in a line, each one holding onto the person in front. Air readings? Dae-hyun asked. Dr. Hana checked her instruments. Toxic, fatal in 3 minutes without suits. With suits, we have maybe 2 hours before the seals start to fail. 2 hours to find 4 children and get back. We can do that. Dae-hyun tried to sound confident. He did not feel confident. They moved deeper into Section 7. The corridors were damaged. Pipes hung from the ceiling, dripping chemicals. The floor was covered in debris. Every step was careful, slow. Engineer Minho studied his tablet. The engineering room is this way, 3 levels down. If Bora followed my instructions, she should be there. If she followed instructions, Ambassador Jiwoo said quietly. She is 10 years old. 10-year-olds do not always follow instructions. Minho nodded. His hands gripped the tablet so hard it creaked. Jiwoo put a hand on his shoulder. No words were needed. They found the stairs. The stairwell was dark and twisted. Metal groaned above them. Something was very wrong with the structure here. Careful, Dae-hyun warned. This whole section could collapse. They descended 1 level. Then 2. On the 3rd level, disaster struck. Pilot So-Jin stepped on a floor panel that looked solid. It was not. With a crack like thunder, the panel gave way. So-Jin fell with a scream. Minho moved faster than thought. His hand shot out and grabbed So-Jin's arm. Her weight pulled him down. For a terrible second, both of them hung over the hole. Then other hands grabbed Minho.
Pulled him back.
Pulled them both back. They lay on the floor, breathing hard. So-Jin looked down into the hole. It was deep, very deep. She would not have survived the fall. Thank you, she whispered. Minho helped her up. We are human. We do not leave each other behind. Across the galaxy, beings watched this moment. They saw one human save another. They saw the team pause, check each other, make sure everyone was okay before continuing. This was strange to them. In their cultures, the mission came first. Individuals came second. But humans seemed to care about each person equally. The Vraxian commander watched from his quarters. He thought about his hatchlings. When they hatched, he would watch them fight. The strong would live. The weak would die. This was nature. This was right. But watching the humans, he felt something strange in his chest. Something uncomfortable. Was it really right? Or was it just the only way he knew? The human team reached the 3rd level. The engineering room was close now. They could see it down the corridor. The door was sealed, red lights flashing around it. Minho ran forward. Bora, can you hear me? Silence, then faint and muffled through the door, a voice. A child's voice. Dad? Minho pressed against the door. I am here, baby. We are going to get you out. Dad, there are others with me. A big lizard thing. And some small glowing things. And an old person with 3 eyes. Dae-hyun checked the door controls. The lock was jammed. The gas had corroded the circuits. They would need to cut through. This will take time, he said. Maybe 15 minutes. Hana checked her instruments. We have time, barely. They began cutting. The metal was thick and strong. The cutting torch moved slowly. Inside the room, they could hear the children talking to each other. Bora was telling them it would be okay. Her father was here. Humans always came for their children. The Vraxian hatchling asked why. Why would adults risk their lives? Bora explained as best she could. Because parents love their children. Because children are precious. Because that is what families do. The hatchling was quiet for a moment. Then it said something that made the humans pause. It said it wished Vraxians were like that. The door fell open. Inside, 4 small figures huddled together. Bora ran to her father and he caught her, held her tight. The other children hung back, uncertain. Daehyun knelt down to their level. Hello, my name is Daehyun. We are here to take you home. The Vraxian hatchling tilted its head. You came for me? But I am not human. You are a child. That is all that matters. Dr. Hana fitted small breathing masks on each child. They would need these to get through the gas. As she worked, she explained what would happen. They would walk together. The adults would protect them. Everything would be fine. But then Hana checked her tablet and her face went pale. Captain, she said quietly, the route back is blocked. Structural collapse. We will have to go through the reactor section. The reactor section? But that area has radiation leaks, I know. But it is the only way out. Daehyun calculated quickly. The reactor section was hot. Even with suits they would get sick. Maybe die. And the children's suits were smaller, less shielding. The children would get the worst of it unless... He looked at his team. They understood without words. They would use their bodies to shield the children. They would take the radiation themselves. How bad? Jiwoo asked. Hana calculated. If we shield the children with our bodies, they should survive with minimal exposure. We will get radiation sickness. Some of us may not recover. How long to cross the reactor section? 8 minutes. 8 minutes of radiation. 8 minutes that would poison them, sicken them, possibly kill them. But it would save the children. Nobody voted. Nobody debated. They just started moving. Each adult took a child. Daehyun lifted Bora onto his back. Minho, despite his injuries, carried the Vraxian hatchling cradled against his chest. Sojin took the Keltar drone. Hana held the young Savorian. They approached the reactor section. The readings on their suits went crazy. Warning lights flashed. Alarms screamed. The suits were telling them that going forward meant death. They went forward anyway. The reactor section was bright with deadly light. Blue and green radiation shimmered in the air. Every breath felt heavy. Every step was harder than the last. Daehyun felt the radiation like heat on his skin. He bent over Bora, making himself a shield between her and the deadly air. Behind him, the others did the same. 14 humans curled around 4 small lives, walking slowly through hell. Across the galaxy, billions watched. They saw humans taking radiation meant for children. Not human children. Children of other species. Children whose own people had abandoned them. The Keltar collective watched. For the first time in their existence, individual drones felt something that was not the collective's feeling. They felt shame. The Savorian elders watched. 10,000 years of logic and reason suddenly seemed very cold and empty. The Vraxian commander watched. His claws dug into his palms. His hatchling was in there. A human was carrying it. A human was dying for it. 3 minutes into the reactor section, pilot Sojin stumbled. She caught herself, kept moving. 5 minutes in, Minho fell to one knee. He got back up, still holding the hatchling tight. 7 minutes in, they were all stumbling, all falling, all getting back up. And then finally, they reached the other side. The radiation levels dropped. The alarms quieted. They had made it through, but the cost was clear. The humans were sick. Radiation sickness was already setting in. They moved like old people, slow and painful, but they moved, and they carried the children. Almost there, Daehyun whispered. His voice was rough. Almost home. The final corridor stretched ahead like a tunnel of light. Captain Daehyun could see the airlock at the end, safety, medical help, life. But it felt 1,000 miles away. His legs barely worked. The radiation had done its work. His suit was failing. He could taste blood in his mouth. But Bora was still on his back, and that was all that mattered. Dad? Bora's voice was small and scared. Are you okay? He wanted to lie. He wanted to say everything was fine. But Daehyun had a daughter of his own, and he knew children deserve truth. I am hurt, little one. But I will get you home. I promise. Behind him, the others struggled. Pilot Sojin had one arm around the Keltar drone and the other against the wall, using it to stay upright. Engineer Minho crawled on his knees. The Vraxian hatchling still clutched to his chest. Dr. Hana stumbled and fell, the young Savorian crying in her arms. Ambassador Jiwoo, bringing up the rear, helped Hana stand. Together they kept moving, step by step, inch by inch. On the other side of the airlock, the aliens had gathered. The Vraxian commander stood at the front, his massive body tense. Keltar clusters filled the corridor, their lights flickering nervously. Savorian elders whispered to each other in ancient languages, and on screens throughout the station, throughout the galaxy, billions watched. The feed showed humans dying one step at a time, but they also showed them refusing to stop, refusing to give up, refusing to let go of the children they carried. The Vraxian commander's claws scraped against his armor. They are going to die, all of them, for children that are not theirs. A Savorian elder stood beside him. Tears ran down the old being's face. Yes, they are showing us what we lost, what we never had. The commander made a decision. It went against every instinct, every tradition, every law of his people. But watching those humans die for his hatchling had changed something in him. Open emergency corridor B7. Extend the safe zone. His second-in-command stared at him. Commander, that will require breaking the containment protocols. The Council, I do not care about the Council. The commander's roar shook the corridor. Those humans are dying for our children. For my hatchling. We will help them. The Vraxian warriors moved. They breached the sealed doors. They created a safe path, cutting 10 minutes off the human team's journey. The Keltar collective joined them, redirecting station power to extend atmosphere pockets. Probability of human survival increased by 12%. Even the Savorians moved, their ancient bodies slow but determined. Medical teams assembled. They brought equipment designed for human biology. They were ready. Daehyun saw the lights ahead brighten, felt cleaner air flowing through his suit. Somehow, impossibly, the aliens were helping, creating a safe corridor, buying them time. Almost there, he told Bora. Almost safe. 20 meters from the airlock, Minho collapsed. The Vraxian hatchling tumbled from his arms. The engineer lay on the ground, his body finally giving out. The hatchling stared at him. It had never seen an adult sacrifice for a young one before. It did not understand. Adults were strong. Young were weak. That was nature. But this adult had carried it through poison and radiation, had given his own life to save it. The hatchling looked at the airlock. It was so close. The hatchling could run, could save itself. That was what Vraxians did. But the human had not left it behind. The human had stayed, so the hatchling stayed too. It pressed against Minho's chest and refused to move. Jiwoo reached them. She hooked her arms under Minho's shoulders and dragged. It should have been impossible. She was exhausted, poisoned, dying, but she dragged him anyway. The hatchling walked beside them, staying close. 10 meters from the airlock, Sojin fell. She pushed the Keltar drone forward with her last strength. The small being of light buzzed in distress. In the collective's long history, no drone had ever felt this. Concern, worry, love. The drone extended thin threads of light. Connected with Sojin. Shared strength. It was not much, but it was enough. Together they stood. Together they moved forward, 5 meters from the airlock. Hana stumbled and the young Savorian nearly fell. The child grabbed onto Hana's suit, held tight. I can walk, please let me walk. I do not want you to die for me. Hana smiled through her pain. That is not how it works, little one. Adults protect children always. They reached the airlock. The doors opened. Clean air rushed in. The humans stumbled through, and the moment they did, they collapsed. All of them. Their bodies had nothing left to give, but not before they set the children down safely. Not before they made sure all 4 were alive. Medical teams rushed in. Alien doctors worked on human bodies, trying to understand their biology, trying to save them. The children were checked first. All 4 were fine. Scared but fine. The adults were another story. The radiation had ravaged them. Their cells were damaged. Their organs were failing. The doctors worked desperately, but they did not know if it would be enough. The Vraxian commander knelt beside Minho. The engineer was unconscious, barely breathing. The commander's hatchling pressed against Minho's side, refusing to leave. Why? The commander whispered. Why did you do this? My hatchling is nothing to you, but Minho could not answer. He might never answer again. Across the galaxy, the feeds showed everything. Humans lying in medical beds, their bodies broken. Children sitting beside them crying. Aliens trying to understand what they had witnessed. In the Keltar homeworld, the collective gathered. They watched the small drone that had connected with Sojin. The drone was different now. It had felt something the collective had never felt. Individual love. Individual sacrifice. The collective did not know what to do with this. For millions of years they had been one mind in many bodies, but this drone wanted to be its own. Wanted to go back to Sojin, wanted to help, so for the first time ever the Keltar collective let a drone go. Released it to be individual. To be itself. On the Savorian homeworld, the elders held an emergency session. For 10,000 years they had built their civilization on logic and reason. They had believed emotion made beings weak. But they had just watched emotion make beings strong enough to die for others. The eldest Savorian spoke. We were wrong. For 10,000 years we were wrong. In the medical bay, Captain Daehyun opened his eyes. The pain was incredible. Every part of his body hurt. But he was alive. He turned his head and saw Bora sleeping in a chair beside his bed. Safe, whole. Jiwoo sat on the other side of his bed. She looked terrible, but she smiled. We did it. Did we get all of them? All 4 children are safe. All 14 humans survived. 3 of us will need long-term treatment. 6 will recover fully. 5 are somewhere in between. But we are alive. Daehyun closed his eyes. Worth it? Yes, worth it. Jiwoo looked out the window at the stars. And I think we just changed the galaxy. She was right. In corridors throughout the station, aliens gathered. They did not speak much. They just stood together and thought about what they had seen. The Vraxian commander stood in his quarters and looked at a picture of his hatchlings. Tomorrow they would hatch, and for the first time in Vraxian history, a father would be there to protect them, to help them, to care. The Keltar collective felt the absence of the freed drone and wondered what other feelings they had been missing. The Savorian elders began rewriting their philosophy texts, adding new chapters. Chapters about love and sacrifice and the strength that comes from caring. Humanity had come to the galaxy as students, eager to learn from advanced civilizations. But in one terrible, beautiful day they had become teachers instead. They had taught the galaxy something it had forgotten, or perhaps something it had never known. That love was not weakness. That sacrifice was not wasteful. That sometimes the most logical thing to do was something completely illogical, like running into fire to save a child.